Welcome to Indian Movie Recaps. Today I will show you a period horror film released in 2020 called Bulbbul. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The story unfolds in the Bengal presidency in 1881, where a bright-eyed and curious 5-year-old girl named Bulbbul lives. This little girl, full of wonder and innocence, is about to face a life-altering event. She is to be wed to Indranil, a wealthy landlord, who is known for his kindness and respect within the community. Indranil has 2 brothers, Mahendra, his identical twin who suffers from a mental disability, and Satya, the youngest, who is about Bulbbul's age. After the wedding, Bulbbul wakes up feeling bewildered and disheartened, struggling to comprehend the abrupt changes in her life. To lift her spirits, Satya, who is close to her age, decides to entertain her with a story. He spins a chilling tale of a witch who resides in a tree and terrorizes people at night. This story, meant to distract and amuse, instead leaves a lasting impression on Bulbbul, who in her confusion, mistakenly believes Satya is her husband. Upon arriving at the Grand Palace, Bulbbul discovers that her true husband is Indranil. Despite this revelation, she has already formed a strong bond with Satya. The two continue to spend most of their time together, finding comfort in each other's company. Satya's presence helps Bulbbul navigate the vast, intimidating palace, making it feel like a true home rather than a foreign and overwhelming place. 2 decades pass, and Satya, now a well-educated and successful man, returns to his hometown after pursuing his studies in London for 5 years. The time apart has seen many changes within the household. Upon his return, Satya learns that Mahendra has passed away 3 years prior and that Indranil has left the palace for reasons unknown. Satya is eager to reunite with Bulbbul, but she is preoccupied with a pressing issue involving their driver and his family. The driver is remarrying, and Bulbbul is determined to ensure that his first wife is not mistreated or neglected. Satya watches from a distance, noticing how much Bulbbul has changed since their childhood. The once innocent and shy girl has blossomed into a wise, compassionate, and intelligent woman, adept at managing the household and addressing the concerns of those under her care. Bulbbul leads Satya to visit Binodini, Mahendra's widow, who now resides in a temple following her husband's death. In the temple, Binodini shares her grief with Satya, revealing a harrowing claim that the witch they feared as children had killed her husband, Mahendra. Despite the sorrow in her voice, Satya and Bulbbul find it hard to believe that the childhood stories they once spun could have come to life in such a horrific manner. Yet, the deaths in the village and the fear gripping the people cannot be ignored. Determined to bring an end to the rumors and restore peace, Satya decides to hunt down the witch. He plans a venture into the night, the time when the mysterious figure is said to be most active. However, before embarking on this dangerous quest, he visits Bulbbul and finds her with an unfamiliar man, Dr. Sudip. Satya feels a pang of unease seeing another man near Bulbbul. Dr. Sudip explains his visit. He is treating Master Dinker's wife, who had broken her leg. However, Bulbbul doubts that the woman's injury is just a simple fall, hinting at a darker reality beneath the surface. As night falls, Satya and his group begin their hunt for the witch. The atmosphere becomes tense and foggy, enveloping the forest in an eerie silence. During the search, Master Dinker is left behind. Out of the mist, a woman emerges and attacks him, leading to his death. His agonized screams pierce the night, drawing the attention of Satya and Dr. Sudip, who converge on the scene, suspicious and alert. They discover Master Dinkar's lifeless body hanging upside down from a tree, a gruesome sight that shocks and disturbs them. The next day, Satya returns to the forest for a more thorough investigation. Examining the scene meticulously, he pieces together the events of the previous night and becomes convinced that Master Dinker's killer was not the witch, but a man. Back at the palace, Satya questions Binodini about Dr. Sudip, trying to learn more about his background and intentions. Suspicion gnaws at Satya as he tries to connect the dots. In a revealing flashback, it is disclosed that Binodini had an affair with Indranil, adding another layer of complexity to the web of relationships and secrets within the palace walls. Binodini had always harbored a deep desire to be Indranil's wife, but her dreams were shattered when Indranil chose Bulbbul instead. Consumed by jealousy, Binodini resented Bulbbul, especially knowing that Bulbbul had a special bond with Satya, as they had grown up playing together. Binodini, ever the schemer, saw an opportunity to exploit this bond to her advantage. She began to poison Indranil's mind against Bulbbul, subtly and persistently feeding him lies and suspicions. When Indranil noticed how much time Bulbbul spent with Satya, writing stories and enjoying each other's company, his jealousy was ignited. In a fit of envy and frustration, he decided to send Satya to London to pursue his education. This decision devastated Bulbbul, as Satya was her only friend and confidant. Bulbbul's pleas to Indranil not to send Satya away only strengthened his resolve to separate them. The very next day, Indranil took Satya to Calcutta to complete the necessary documentation for his journey. Bulbbul waited anxiously for their return each day, her heart heavy with a sense of impending loss. After a few months, Indranil returned alone, bringing the heartbreaking news that Satya would not be coming back. This abandonment left Bulbbul feeling desolate and isolated, stripping away the one person who made the palace feel like home. Binodini, unsatisfied with the turmoil she had already caused, continued to manipulate Indranil. She falsely informed him that Bulbbul was secretly writing a novel with Satya, and that she had seen them meeting secretly. This further fueled Indranil's jealousy and anger, pushing him over the edge. In a blind rage, Indranil stormed into Bulbbul's bedroom, only to find it empty. His eyes fell on a tiny scrap of paper with Bulbbul and Satya's names written on it, sending him into a fury. Grabbing a heated rod, he searched for Bulbbul and found her in the bathroom. Without a moment's hesitation, he dragged her out and brutally beat her with the rod, breaking her legs. Desperate to cover up his violent actions, Indranil called Dr. Sudeep to treat Bulbbul's injuries. Dr. Sudeep, upon examining her, realized the severity of the abuse she had endured but was forced to comply with Indranil's orders to conceal the truth. In the present day, just a few days after another murder has shocked the village, Satya and the local police intensify their efforts to solve the recent murders plaguing the village. Satya learns that a little girl is the sole witness to the latest crime. However, she is in shock and under the care of Dr. Sudeep. As Satya delves deeper into the investigation, he grows increasingly suspicious of Dr. Sudeep. It seems that every murder in the village has some connection to the doctor, a fact that Satya cannot ignore. Dr. Sudeep visits Bulbbul in her writing room to bid her farewell, explaining that he needs to leave for another village to treat people afflicted by a spreading plague. Satya, observing from a distance, sees Dr. Sudeep speaking with Bulbbul and feels a surge of disapproval. When Bulbbul returns to the palace, Satya confronts her, expressing his disapproval of her interactions with Dr. Sudeep. He tells her that it is inappropriate for a married woman to spend time with another man in the absence of her husband and accuses her of tarnishing the family's reputation. Bulbbul, unfazed, laughs at Satya's accusations, remarking that he is just like his brothers. A flashback reveals the traumatic events that have shaped Bulbbul. After Indranil left the palace, Mahendra, in a fit of lunacy, brutally raped Bulbbul. The assault was so severe that Bulbbul stopped breathing for a short time. Believing she was dead, Mahendra fled back to his room in terror. As the moon turned blood red, Bulbbul regained consciousness and began screaming. Binodini, hearing the screams and seeing Mahendra's terror, hurried to Bulbbul's room. She cleaned Bulbbul up and instructed her to remain silent about the incident. This flashback also shows how the trauma fundamentally changed Bulbbul. Listening to Binodini's words, Bulbbul seemed to undergo a complete transformation, a shift from innocence to a state of hardened resolve. When Dr. Sudeep arrived to treat her, he was alarmed to find that someone had removed Bulbbul's legs from the suspenders he had placed to support them. As he put her legs back into the suspenders, he noticed blood on Bulbbul's lap and realized the extent of the violence she had endured. Dr. Sudeep tried to convince Bulbbul to reveal her assailant, but she refused, choosing silence over the risk of further retribution. Despite his long-term treatment, Bulbbul's feet were permanently damaged, twisted in a way that marked her suffering and resilience. In the present, Dr. Sudeep is about to leave the village when Satya confronts him with a gun. Satya's long-held resentment towards the doctor, fueled by jealousy and suspicion, comes to a head. Meanwhile, Bulbbul and Binodini attend Mahendra's death anniversary prayer meeting. As they approach the entrance, the driver's son stops Bulbbul, crying uncontrollably. He reveals that his father has married a new wife and thrown his mother out of their house, leading to her suicide. When Bulbbul asks where his father is, the boy informs her that he is driving Satya and Dr. Sudeep to Calcutta. During the journey, Satya confronts Dr. Sudeep, accusing him of the crimes and insisting that he would only believe in his innocence if the witch appeared before them in the forest. Suddenly, their wagon comes to an abrupt halt. Satya rushes outside and discovers the lifeless body of the driver. At that moment, the witch appears. Satya attempts to shoot her, but she vanishes into thin air. Driven by desperation, he starts chasing her. Dr. Sudeep steps out of the wagon and, to his horror, sees Bulbbul gravely injured by Satya's bullet. It is already too late. The forest is engulfed in flames, spreading rapidly as Satya's actions set everything ablaze. As the fire rages through the forest, Bulbbul, in a desperate and isolated state, climbs to the topmost branch of a tree. There, she sits alone, crying, as she reflects on the haunting memories of her past. The pain and isolation she feels are compounded by the flood of recollections that overwhelm her. These traumatic experiences have transformed Bulbbul into a powerful and fearsome force, one that is unafraid of anything or anyone. Driven by the injustices she has suffered, Bulbbul exacts vengeance on every man in the village who has ever molested or harmed a woman. The transformation is stark. The once innocent girl is now a vengeful spirit of justice. Master Dinkar, who had assaulted his wife, meets his end in this wave of retribution. Similarly, the girl who witnessed the recent murder was herself a victim of the man who was about to rape her. The driver, too, falls victim to this cycle of vengeance. Each act of violence and injustice that Bulbbul addresses is connected to her own suffering, and she channels her anguish into a relentless pursuit of justice. Satya, overwhelmed with grief and regret, recalls that Bulbbul had a particular fondness for climbing trees. The memory of her childhood joy in this simple pleasure contrasts sharply with the tragic reality he faces. As Satya breaks down and cries, he realizes the enormity of his actions. He has shot Bulbbul, and the gravity of his mistake hits him with full force. Tragically, Bulbbul succumbs to the flames that consume the forest, her life ending in a conflagration that mirrors the intensity of her suffering. In the epilogue of the movie, a year after the tragic events, Indranil returns to the palace, which has now fallen into ruin. Grass grows everywhere, showing how time has passed and the palace has been abandoned. Satya writes a letter to Indranil, explaining that he left the palace because the three brothers were responsible for the murder of an innocent girl, referring to Bulbbul. This letter brings a dark resolution to the story, revealing the depth of the betrayal and the lasting impact of their actions. As Indranil prepares for bed in the empty, desolate palace, Bulbbul's spirit appears before him. Her ghostly presence is a final attempt to seek justice for the wrongs done to her. Her appearance shows that her suffering is still unresolved, and she is still seeking the revenge that was never achieved during her life. That's the end of the movie. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more recaps. Thanks for watching, and take care.